constitution. So we'll go on with the introduction to Ayurvedic doshas. What are doshas? First of all, we'll understand what are doshas. In Ayurveda, we call it as something that vitiates our body. Now, does it always vitiates us? We cannot always call them as vitiators. There are two conditions. One, when they are very much in balance and they also hold our bodies. So, in that state, we call them as bioenergies because they are performing all the functions in our body right from head to our toe. Hence, they are called as bioenergies. But the reason behind calling them as vitiators or doshas is that when they get imbalanced, like their normal state goes up or down their normal levels, then they cause imbalance and then they are called as vitiators. Doshas are of two kinds: physical doshas and mental doshas. Physical, who take the responsibility of our body, and mental, which controls our mind or which resides in our mind. So, in today's webinar, we'll go through the physical doshas. Now, I'm sure some of you must have heard about the three basic doshas and you must be aware with the terms of like Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Yes, of course. The three physical doshas or the bioenergies that governs, that controls our body are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. As you can see, the first picture is of Vata personalities or Vata constitution. Vata is basically, if we correlate it with the 5 elements that we have, and what are those 5 elements? Space or ether, air, fire, water, and earth. So Vata, if we try to correlate it with those 5 elements, it comprises of, or it is primarily made up of, space and air. The second picture in the red is of Pitta. Pitta, as you can see, the diagram below is fire. So they primarily consists of fire and a little bit amount of water is also there. Moving on to the third picture, it is of the Kapha dosh, and as you can see below that, the image shows a little bit of water. So Kapha dosha is primarily related with water, and some amount of earth element is also present in that, which gives it little stability. So we'll go through them one by one. First, we'll talk about Vata. What is Vata? As I said, if whatever is in Ayurveda, we believe that whatever is there inside our bodies is there outside in nature, and whatever is there outside in nature is there inside our body. So if we correlate the Vata in our body with that in nature, we can very well correlate it with air. So we can understand the qualities of air and we can understand what air does in the nature. The same thing Vata does in our bodies. How can we understand what is Vata? We need to understand some qualities about it to get a better understanding what air is all about. So the qualities of Vata are: it is dry, it is cold in nature, it's very light because it has to move from one place to another, so it is light. Minute, that means it has the ability or capability to enter into the minute channels of our body. Movable, as I told you, whatever is there outside in the nature. So we see, what does air do in the nature? It moves from one place to another. Likewise, Vata in our body moves from one place to another. And also, it is rough in nature. These are some of the qualities or features that defines what Vata is, or we can just imagine what kind of an element it can be. Now we have understood what Vata exactly is, we have understood what are the qualities of Vata. As I said, it is there in our bodies, it forms our constitutions, So, what are the sites of Vata? Where does it reside in our body? I'm sure this is a question that must be upcoming in your minds. So, before going into a depth of places of Vata or specific sites of Vata, I wanted to give you an overview or a broad description of the places or seats of all the three doshas in our body, that is Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So, if we divide our bodies into three parts, from head and neck till the chest region or the diaphragmic region, that is the place we can say is broadly of Kapha, that is water and earth element. Below the diaphragm till our umbilical region, we can broadly say that it is the site of Pitta. Below the umbilical region in the pelvic girdle and lower extremities, we can broadly divide it and categorize it as the specific place for Vata. Although these are not the only places, like if we say that from head and neck till the diaphragm or the chest region is majorly a place of kapha, that doesn't mean that kapha is not there below in your lower extremities. It is there. But these are the broad classification of the places. Now, I'll tell you about the specific sites of vata. So if we talk about the specific sites of vata, we have urinary bladder, we have rectum or colon area, the pelvic region, the thighs, limbs, bones, hairs, skin. As we can correlate it, the vata is also present in one of our sense organs, that is the skin. It is the major site of vata, so that we feel the air, we can feel how it is rough, it is dry, and it is cold. So these are the major places where vata resides in our body. And out of those also, the center picture that you can see is of colon or the intestines. So that is again majorly most important site where vata resides. Now, this vata is not only of one type. As I said, it is very elaborated. So, vata is further divided into 5 different types, and we'll go through them one by one, understanding where does this particular type of vata resides and what does it does in our body. So first we'll start on with the prana, that is called as the pranvat or pranavayu. There are certain specific places where this pranavayu resides, and that is our head region, our chest region, all our senses like our ears, like our tongue and mouth and nose. These are the major places where pranavata resides, and being on these places, being resided in these places, it has certain specific actions that it does, like the action of spitting, like the action of sneezing, belching or burping, breathing, and swallowing food. All these actions that is particularly performed by our upper body, that is the head and the neck region primarily, comes under the actions of pranavata. I would again repeat: spitting, sneezing, belching, burping, breathing, and swallowing. The second type of vata is the Udan Vayu or the Udan Vata. Again, there are some specific sites where this Udan Vayu resides, and that is our umbilical region, our chest region, and the throat. These are basically the areas where Udan Vata stays or resides. It also has certain specific actions. This action of speaking, the effort that we do for anything, be it the effort of blinking our eyes, be it the effort of speaking, be it the effort of moving our hand, walking, whatever efforts that we do in our body, enthusiasm for different work, for different things. These enthusiasm and also the strength and stamina that we do have is because of this Udan Vata. The third type of Vata that comes is Vyan Vayu or the Vyan Vata. This particular Vyan Vata is not located at just one or two places. In fact, it is present throughout our body, and that is why it is responsible for movement of different things, for circulation, for contraction and extension of our different organs, different parts of the body, blinking of our eyes, etc. Whatever movement is being carried out, it is being carried out because of Vyana Vayu. If we move on to our next Vayu or the type of Vata, that is the Saman Vata. As you can see, it is very much located in our stomach area. Yes, of course. The Saman Vayu, it lies in the channels of our body, and also it is also lying next to our digestive fire, and hence it provides a kind of a stimulation, or it helps in blowing up of our digestive fire. Last type of the Vata is the Apan Vata or Apanavayu. As we can see in the diagram, it is present in the lower part of our body. So Apan Vata is something which is present in the excretory organs like the testicles, the urinary bladder, the rectum or the colon, and or intestines, and therefore it is responsible for the expansion of air, urine, fecal matter, menstruation cycle, and even the expulsion of the child during the delivery is because of this Apan Vata. The next dosha that we will come on to is of course Pitta, because after Vata, the next major dosha is the Pitta dosha. As we can see and as we have discussed earlier, it is made up of two elements again, primarily or the major portion being of fire, and some amount of water is also associated with that. Now, as we have understood about the qualities of Vata, what are the types of Vata, likewise we'll go through the Pitta also. So how can we understand or how can we recognize what Pitta is? Yes, we know it's fire and it resembles to fire outside in the nature. So it has the qualities of that fire. It is warm. It has a little unctuousness or oiliness. It is sharp, sour, and it has a spreading nature like the fire does have. Now we'll come on to the places or sites of Pitta. So broadly, if we classify as we have discussed, broadly the Pitta's place in the body is in the center of the body, below the diaphragm till our umbilicus or the navel area. But again, there are certain specific sites which are the sweat or the sweat glands, the plasma, lymph, blood, eyes, liver, spleen, sebaceous glands, stomach area, small intestine, and out of those also stomach or the small intestine area is the major place for Pitta. Now we'll go through the types of Pitta. Pitta is also of 5 different types: Sadhak Pitta, Alochak Pitta, Vrajak Pitta, Ranjak Pitta, and Pachak Pitta. So we'll understand one by one what these types of Pitta are, where do they reside, and what do they do in our body, or what are they responsible for. So first comes the Sadhak Pitta. resides in brain. Now, in Ayurveda, the term brain is used for two different things, or the heart is used for two different things. The brain itself and the heart is also called as the brain. So the Sadha Pitta is residing in the heart or the brain, and it has the responsibility for our intelligence, for our memory, and so on. The second type of the Pitta is Alochak Pitta. As we can see in the diagram, it is residing in the eyes area. Yes, the brightness, the sharpness in the eyes that we have is because of Alochak Pitta. And what does it do? The function of eye is seeing different objects, different things. Now, you must have heard that one must not wash the eyes with warm water. We always say that wash your eyes with cold water or splash running water in your eyes. Why is that so? It's very scientific and it's very clearly mentioned in Ayurveda that if the Alochak Pitta is residing in our eyes, now Pitta, just we have discussed that it symbolizes fire, which is warm in nature. If the eyes has that heat because of the Alochak Pitta residing over there, and if we use warm water to wash our eyes, it will further burn our eyes and it will not be good for our eyes. Therefore, to calm that down, it is always said to use running water or cold water so that the pitta that is already aggravated settles down. The third is the Bhrajak Pitta. Bhrajak Pitta, as we can see, it is residing in our skin. And what does it do? The functions of skin are to maintain the body's temperature, maintaining our complexion, and etc. The next comes Ranjak Pitta. Ranjak Pitta is something which is residing in liver. Liver is the area in Ayurveda we believe that after we have ingested the food gets digested, and after that, the first thing that is formed out of that digested food is called rasadhatu. That is the first tissue formed, or the nutrients that comes out of that is a rasadhatu. Now we believe that in liver that rasadhatu enters, there the Ranjak Pitta that is residing in the liver, it acts on that rasadhatu, and the name, the Ranjak means coloring. So that provides color to that rasadhatu and converts it into blood. Therefore, it has the responsibility of formation of blood. Now the next comes the Pachak Pitta. Pachak. Pachak means digestion. So the Pitta that is responsible for digestion is called Pachak Pitta. Therefore, it is residing in our intestines, especially the small intestines where most of the digestion takes place, and it also aids digestion. The third dosha or the bioenergy that comes is the kapha dosha, and it is primarily associated with the water and earth's element. It is not like that the out of these five elements, if I say that kapha is made up of earth and water, the other elements will not be there. Of course, they are also present because it's never like one thing is made up of one major element. So all the five elements are present in everything. It is just the matter of predominance. So when we say about kapha, it is majorly constituted of water and earth, and small amount of other three elements, that is space, air and fire is also there, but it is in such a negligible amount that we do not consider it. Now we'll talk about the qualities of kapha again. What are the qualities of or guna of kapha? As we symbolizes it with water and earth, of course it is something that has fluidity, that is cold, and that provides stability. As earth is heavy, so kapha becomes heavy. Anything that is heavy and watery, it becomes slow, it is cold, but it is soft and oily. It has a little sweet taste. It is stable, and also it is viscous or slimy in nature. Now we'll talk about the major places or the sites of kapha. So like we have discussed, the major site is from head and neck till your chest region, let's say. So the chest, the head, the throat are the main regions. Along with that, the joints, because we all know that we do have the synovial fluid in our joints. So that is also a kind of kapha, as it provides stability to the joints, as it is fluid, as it is watery. So joints are also, and of course the stomach area. So the mucosal lining of stomach, the lymph nodes, the lungs, the mouth, nose, and the sinuses, they form the major places or sites of kapha dosha or kapha bioenergy in our body. Like vata and pitta, kapha also is of 5 different types. Tarpak kapha, bodhak kapha, shleshak kapha, avlambak kapha, and kledak kapha. So we'll go through them one by one. We'll talk about the Tarpak kapha first. Tarpak kapha resides in the brain or the head, and it is responsible for nourishing our sense organs. Next comes the Bodhak kapha. Bodhak means to acknowledge or to know. So it lies in the oral cavity, or more specifically we can say the base of tongue and throat. So what is the function of tongue? Yes, tasting, identification of tastes. So the major action of Bodha Kapha is to identify different tastes that we eat. As in Ayurveda, we have 6 different tastes: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, and astringent. Then comes the Shleshak Kapha. Shleshak kapha is something that is present in the joints. So like I said, in between the joints, we do have the synovial fluid, and that synovial fluid is providing lubrication to the joints, it provides stability to the joints, and this becomes the function of Shleshak kapha. Then is the Avlambak kapha. Avlambak kapha is also present in heart, and it provides stability and strength to our heart. Next comes the Kledak kapha. Kledak kapha is something which is present in the stomach and intestinal linings, and Kledan means to break down and to make it viscous, like that of a muddy water sort of thing. So it also helps in making the food that we have eaten. It makes the food softer and slimy. Thank you so much for your patience, and I hope you've gained something from this session. For any further queries, you can always email us, and you can always contact us on the below mentioned email ID, that is himalayasretreatinfo@gmail.com.
Thank you, Dr. Shweta, for a very deep and enlightening session. In fact, we now have time for some questions, if there are any. Yes, there's a question from Edris which says, how do we analyze our body type? Probably Dr. Shweta, you could answer this, keeping our knowledge on Vata, Pitta and Kapha. How does a person understand what is the major body type that a person has? What are the physical manifestations, or mental manifestations or whatever is assessed. I mean, if you could just give us a small insight on that.
Yes, of course. So the three physical doshas that we have talked about, Vata, Pitta and Kapha, they do form our body types. Now there are two different things. One is our body type, our constitution that we are made up of, and it is not only physical. The mental doshas also come into action when we talk about the body type or constitution. That is formed when we are being formed. That is, at the time of the fertilization of sperm and ovum, whatever doshas are predominant or more active at that period of time, they form our body type, which remains same throughout our life. It never changes. And the second is the imbalance. The imbalance, they keep on changing with the kind of food we are eating, with the kind of lifestyle we are living, or whatever we are adapting day to day life that can imbalance these doshas, but not our body constitution. So, if I give you a general idea on what the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha body type look like. So if we talk about the first Vata body type, they are the thinnest of the three. The Vata body type are thin. They have a little, skeleton-like body constitution, wherein they do not have that much of fat and flesh, but their bones are strong. They have good bones, good joints, and uh, they are mentally more active as compared to Pitta and the Kapha personalities, and they get onto the things very quickly. If we talk about the Pitta body type, it is the middle one, wherein they are a little more good built than the Vata, but less than that of the Kapha. So they have a medium built, medium constitution. They have a sparkling, face. They have a glowing face. Their skin complexion or the color is little towards fairer side as compared to Vata. And if we talk about their mind characteristics, they have a little short tempered. They can easily be, angry. They can easily lose their temper. They can be more aggressive at times as compared to Vata and Kapha. And they learn things quickly and they stay on for a longer time. If I tell you about the Kapha type, if you have seen my first slide that wherein I have introduced you to the physical doshas, so the Kapha is a little more heavy built as compared to Vata and Pitta. They have a good build compared to Vata and Pitta. They have thick skin. They are little towards lazy side or lethargic side. They are not so active that they can just throw around with things, a number of things at a time. They are more systematic. They go on one by one on different things, and they prefer sitting at one place. They are not so aggressive. They are a bit cool and calm minded. And if you want a, this is a general overview of that. And if we can also give you a detailed in-depth knowledge through a one-on-one consultation that we can do. If you are interested, you can always write us to that, and we can do a one-on-one consultation wherein we have certain, questionnaire based on which we can better guide you with the body constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shweta. There was one question. In fact, if a person has a lot of dryness, which is manifested probably in having a dry skin, dry frizzy hair, and probably a person who has, dryness of the bowel movements as well, a tendency to, constipation. So such a personality would be in which dosha type?
If that is present all through the life, then that forms the more towards the Vata predominant Prakriti or constitution or body type. Now again, it doesn't mean that the person doesn't have Pitta and Kapha. Pitta and Kapha are also present in that body type, but Vata is more predominant.
Okay, thank you. There's a second part to the first question, wherein the question is, can we analyze ourselves, or do we have to visit a therapist or a practitioner?
I would suggest to visit a practitioner, although on a broad spectrum, the points I've told you are enough, but a practitioner or a specialist can do the further deep analysis through their experience and through their the textual knowledge as well.
Thank you, Dr. Shweta. Any further questions would always be welcome.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Please, yes, yes, ma'am.
First of all, yeah, thank you for all that information. It was very interesting. And I'm wondering, yeah, definitely. And wondering, for someone who's not very involved, not very knowledgeable, what kind of signs in the body may tell us that we are out of balance, or that we should perhaps seek deeper knowledge about that, if there are any?
Sure. So, if you have seen through the or gone through the slides of the qualities of the doshas that I was telling about, the qualities of vata, as I told you, the qualities of pitta, and the qualities of kapha. So, if vata goes more out of the balance, so it will show its characters more than the normal state. So if in normal state it is little, dry, rough, cold. So if you start feeling more dryness in the body, your skin suddenly becomes more dry, you feel more thirsty, your bowel movements get little on the slower side, you feel constipated, then that is a sign somehow vata is getting imbalanced in the body. If pitta gets imbalanced or out of balance, so you might feel little more warm as compared to the normal usual temperature. You might feel more thirsty. You might feel more irritated and agitated, or short-tempered. You might feel like dizzy also, even in cases of pitta imbalance. If it's a severe imbalance, there's a craving to have sweet in that case. If kapha gets out of balance, you start feeling more lazy, more lethargic. You don't want to. You will not want to get out. You will not want to sit at just one place and just be quiet. That is a sign somehow kapha is getting imbalanced in your body. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
And Dr. Shweta, probably you could also talk about the pulse analysis in Ayurveda that is done usually. I mean, for that, obviously, you would need to interact with the practitioner on one-to-one level, on a face-to-face physical consultation. But again, if you could probably tell the audience about the pulse analysis and how does it work? How are the doshas assessed, or how is the constitution assessed while looking at the pulse of an individual? If you could just give us some light on that.
Sure, sure. So in Ayurveda, which is the ancient system of our medicine, in the ancient times, the pulse or the Nadi Pariksha used to be one of the major aspects. Nowadays, we do have different tools, but still, the touching experience and the feeling experience plays an important role in identifying. So just now, like I said, it was a general overview on identifying yourself, that if you go to a practitioner, if you go to a specialist, the specialist can always do your Nadi Pariksha, which is a pulse diagnosis, to understand about the situation, the movement of doshas in your body, which will be really helpful in identifying what is the current and the present imbalance, to what extent, associated with what dosha, and based on that, the practitioner or the specialist, they goes on further with the kind of treatment needed, with their diagnosis, with their treatments. So this way, the vata, pitta, and kapha imbalances, the level of imbalances plays an important role, and we can work upon that with the one-on-one physical examination of pulse, also the body constitution. Yeah.
Right, thank you. There's one more question. In addition to the previous question that was asked regarding the analysis of the body type, uh, does these doshas also affect our mental health? And if so, if you could give some examples.
Yes. Of course, like in the beginning, I said that the doshas are of two kinds: physical doshas and mental doshas. Physical doshas are the Vat, Pitta, and Kapha that we have discussed, whereas the mental doshas are Raj and Tam. So, if I give you a correlation between the physical and the mental doshas, the Vata that is there in the physical dosha is correlated with the Raja mental dosha. Because if Vata in the physical body gets imbalanced, in the mental state, the Raja also gets imbalanced. And the Kapha in our physical doshas is very much related to Tama in our mental doshas. The qualities of Kapha and Tama are very much similar. So, like if I give you an example, like I said, if the Pitta gets imbalanced in your body, the normal characteristics of Pitta are warm, oily, and the Pitta body type person also is a bit more already naturally towards short temperedness. But if Pitta gets out of balance, it has a direct impact on our mental health, and the person becomes more agitated, more violent at times, and more irritable. Likewise, like in the Kapha personality also, if Kapha gets imbalanced physically, it affects the Tama mental dosha. And if Tama gets increased, the person has the mindset of being lazy and lethargic. They feel more heavy in the body. At the same time, the mental status of being lethargic, not participating in any activity, likewise.
So similarly, if you talked about the Raja dosha as well, if the Vata gets aggravated, if the air energy gets aggravated, so on a mind level, what is the impact that one would see?
If Vata energy gets imbalanced, the Vata person becomes more hyperactive. They would not fix on to one thing. They would be, quickly, like they want to do n number of things at the same time, and they become especially more hyperactive in that case.
So there's one more question which says that can yoga and mindfulness help? So probably you could talk about the well-being plans that we follow and the wellness journey that we talk about where when we integrate the different aspects of well-being.
Yes. So wellness or well-being is the integration of different things together, different systems together. So of course, as our doshas are playing not only a role on our physical body, they are also governing our mental health or the mental state. And as we know, yoga and meditation is not only for the body, it is also for our mind. So if we practice yoga and meditation in that case, it is not only doing different kinds of postures and twisting and turning our bodies. In fact, if we practice it mindfully, or the mindfulness aspect comes in, it has a very good relation, it has a very good impact on our mind. It calms down the mind, and the impact that should be there of the imbalanced doshas on the mental health, that will not be so much, because the imbalances are also of different kinds. If it is like 20-30%, if it's 50%, if it's 80%, or if it's out of the bucket, if it's spilling out of the bucket. So uh, different the things, like different system of medicines like Ayurveda, yoga, meditation, homeopathy, their all approach is the same, to stabilize physical and mental health. Just the means is different. So if we combine it all together, like we do it in Himalayas retreat, we combine it all together, they give out a beautiful result.
Okay, there's a question which says, can some Ayurvedic oils help in sleep quality as well? And do we have some applications in Ayurveda that can work to improve the sleep quality, to improve the quality of sleep for a person? You could probably give guide us on that as well.
Yes, there are certain oils, there are certain therapies in Ayurveda which plays a very good role in that and which has a very good impact. But again, it becomes more, specific in nature, and an in-depth history needs to be taken as to what is the condition, what is the cause, what is the scenario. So it becomes individualistic and personalized. I would suggest that if you can, email us on himalayasretreatinfo@gmail.com, then I can better get in touch with you for an in-depth questionnaire where I can understand and then guide you better about certain, oils in that case.
And if there's any specific treatment that you would want to tell us, any specific treatment that works on the mind and provides help in this condition?
Yes, of course, there are different panchkarma treatments that we do depending upon the stage of a person, depending upon the age of a person and the condition. Like Shirodhara is there, which plays a very great impact in that. Shirobasti is there, and Nasya is a treatment. Shirodhara is like a person will be there on a board on the panchkarma table, which is called as droni, and there would be oil dripping onto the forehead for desired amount of time. So that is called as Shirodhara, and it helps in calming down the mental status. Then we have Nasya, which is also again very good treatment, because as it is said that nose is the gateway to our mind. So the drops instilled or the medicine given through the nose, it reaches our brain and corrects the imbalances as well. So Nasya is also a treatment wherein we instill the nasal drops according to the condition of a person, and there are many factors that we have to take in consideration for that.
Thank you, doctor. Probably we have time for one last question, if there's any. Okay, I think we've run out of questions. Thank you very much, Dr. Shweta, for being very patient and explaining the aspect of Ayurveda and how it can benefit us, and taking us on a journey of the Ayurvedic doshas and constitutions with examples as well. Thank you so much. And thank you all the participants for taking out time and attending our series. This was our second series that we talked about, and soon we'll be coming up with a third series, which will be a talk on nutrition and gut health, which will be done by our nutritionists. And we plan to do this on the 5th of July. So we'll keep you posted on that. And in the interim, if there's any question, any feedbacks, any suggestions that you would want to share with us, we have our email ID, which is himalayasretreatinfo@gmail.com, and we will be more than happy to connect and answer any further queries that any one of you might have. So thanking you all once again on behalf of the team, and thanking Dr. Shweta once again for her time.
Thank you so much for all your participation.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. And tomorrow is International Yoga Day. So ensure that you do some kind of a yoga practice. If you are a regular yoga practitioner, that is wonderful. If not, then probably spend 10-15 minutes in at least introducing yourself to the concept of yoga. And if possible, make it as a practice, as a well-being and wellness practice. That is going to be very beneficial, both for the physical and the mental aspect. Thank you all. Thank you.